So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing with going through some big mock questions taken from some higher GCSE maths papers. Now, as always, I'll include a copy of the questions that we go through in this particular video for you to attempt at, which I strongly recommend you do so you can test your prior knowledge, as a link in the description. Now, before we get started working through these questions, it's really important that you do have quite sound knowledge of the topics that the questions relate to. If you're not sure about any of these topics you can see on the screen, then I strongly recommend you go back and revise, either by looking through your class notes, or you can access the lessons to each of these topics that go through in a lot more detail by clicking on accessing the contents page, which is the link in the description, where you'll go through everything in a lot more detail and hopefully kind of cement your knowledge in each of these topics. So looking at question 1, it says that a circle with centre O has a circumference of 20 pi centimetres. Q is a point on the circle where OPQR is a square, and the perimeter of the square to the circumference of the circle is in the ratio of root A to pi, where A is an integer. And the question is asking us to work out the value of A. So if I just zoom in just a little bit so we can see the question on the screen just a little bit clearer. So the first thing we know is that the circumference of the circle is 20 pi. So this is that bit there. Now, in order for us to work out the perimeter of the square, we'd first of all need to work out what one of the sides are. So if I just call this X, and I call that dotted line of OQR, so using the circumference of the circle, so I know that the circumference of the circle is equal to 2 pi r, or pi times d, whichever you prefer to use, and we know that that's 20 pi. So from this we can then cancel things out, so the pi's cancel, so we know that 20 equals 2r, so therefore the radius is going to equal 10. Then if I take the triangle out, and it's going to be a right angle triangle, so this is our r value, which is 10, and I label that as x, and x I can then use Pythagoras to work out the side of this, to find the side of the square. So from this we know that 10 squared equals x squared plus x squared, so that's 100 equals 2x squared, so that means that 50 is going to equal x squared, so x is going to equal root 50. So this side here is root 50, this side here is root 50, this side here is root 50, and this side here is root 50. So from this I can then work out what the perimeter of the square is, which is going to be 4 lots of root 50. Now, using surds, we know that 50 can be written as 25 times, so if we just write root 50 equals root 25 times root 2, which is 5 root 2, which then ultimately gives us 20 root 2. So all I then need to do is then convert this into the ratio. So here the ratio is going to be 20 root 2 to the circumference of the circle, which is 20 pi. And then from this we can then cancel out the 20s. So we're just left with root 2 to pi. And then we can see that that is exactly in the format that I'm wanting it to. So therefore, A equals 2. Then moving on to question 2, it says the journey has 2 stages. And the question is asking us to show that the average speed for the whole journey in kilometers per hour is 2ab over a plus b. Now, to work out the average speed, it's going to be the total distance divided by the total time. So looking at this, if I then want to work out the total distance, I just need to add these two numbers up. So that's going to be 30 plus 30, which is 60. Then to work out the total time, that's going to be 30 over A plus 30 over B. Now, from this, what I want to do now is combine this into a single fraction. So I need a common denominator, which in this case is going to be AB. And so the numerator for the first one is going to be 30b, and the numerator for the second one is going to be 30a. So then combining the two, it's going to be 30a plus 30b over AB. So this here is my total time. This here is my total distance. So to work out the average speed, it's going to be 60 divided by 30a plus 30b, all divided by AB. Now that at the moment looks a mess, so let me just convert this to 60 divided by 30a plus 30b over AB. Now when dividing, what do? Well, we flip the second fraction and we turn it into a multiply, so that's going to be 60 over 1 multiplied by AB over 30a plus 30b. If I just zoom down a little bit, so then combining the two fractions, we get 60ab all over 30a plus 30b. I can then factorise or simplify by dividing by 30. Well, let's do that. So if we divide by 30, both the top and the bottom, that turns into a 2, that turns into a 1, that turns into a 1. So what I'm left with is 2ab over a plus b, which is exactly what they wanted me to show. Moving on to question 3, it says that Jess saves 2 pences, 5p's and 10p coins. She has 45 10p coins and she has 8 times as many 2p coins as 10p coins, and she has £17.70 in total. And the question is asking us to work out the total value of 2p coins to the total value of 5p coins, giving our answer in its simplest form. Now for this, what we need to do is, now we can look at the first bit of information. So we know that we've got 45 10p coins. So here, if we just write the coin, we write the quantity and we write the total value. So here we've got 2p coins, 5p coins, and we've got 10p coins. Now from the information, we know that we've got 45 10p coins, and that's going to give me a total value of £4.50. And we've also been told that the total is £17.50. So the next thing we then need to do is use the next bit of information. So it says 8 times as many 2p coins as 10p coins. So we know that we've got 45 10p coins. So the number of 2p coins is going to equal 8 times 45, which if I type that into my calculator, I'm going to get 360 coins. So that there is going to be 360. And then I can then work out the total value, which is going to be 0.02 times 360. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of £7.20. So this here is going to be £7.20. So from this, I can then work out the number of the total value of 5p coins, which is going to be £17.70 minus £7.20 minus £4.50, and that's going to come up to a total of £6. So then all that's left for me to then do is work out the number. Well, I've actually then finished it. So here, all I'm then doing is comparing £7.20 to £6. So let's write that as a ratio. Is going to be 7.20 to £6. And then again, we just want to make them into whole numbers. So again, we can just multiply by 10, whichever way you want to do it. You can do it in pence if you wanted to, so you can just simplify this ratio. But ultimately, it's going to simplify to the ratio of 6 to 5. Moving on to question 4, it says, in a game, an ordinary fair 6-sided dice is rolled and a fair spinner is spun. And it says that the score on the dice number substituted into the spinner expression, complete the table as shown to show all possible scores. So for this, all we want to do is substitute these numbers you can see as the column headings multiplied by the row headings. So here we've got substituting 1, we're going to get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Multiplying the numbers by 3, we're going to get 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And then squaring the numbers, we get 1, 4, 9, 16 and 36. So there's my table completed. For B, it then says that a player wins the game if their score is 10 or more. Work out the probability that they win the game. Well, 10 or more, well, that's 10. And these are the ones that are going to be more. So we know that there are going to be 8 possible outcomes. So it's going to be 8 out of total of 18. And we can simplify that fraction to give me 4/9. Now for 1 mark, any of those two answers into whether it's your probability has been simplified or not will be fine for that 1 mark. Moving on to C, it says a game is played 711 times. Estimate the number of games that are won. So for this, what we need to do, this is then now moving on to relative frequency. So all we need to do is just simply multiply the number of trials by the probability of a win, which we've just worked out as being set 4/9. Typing that into a calculator, and I get an answer of 316. Moving on to question 5, it says for part A, part of a regular polygon is shown. Assume that the polygon is an octagon. Work out the size of angle X. Well, an octagon has got 8 sides. So then to work out the interior angle, the formula is 180 minus the number of sides, take away 2, divided by the number of sides. So if I type that all into my calculator or work it out manually, depending on if this was a calculator or a non-calculator paper, we should get an answer of 135 degrees. So then from this, we then now know that this is 135. So then to work out X, I've just got to take that away from 135, which gives me an answer of 45 degrees. It then says, in fact, the polygon has more sides than an octagon. What does this mean about the size of angle X? Well, if you're having more sides, it means the interior angle is going to get bigger. So that means the exterior angle is going to get smaller. So if it's got more sides than an octagon, it's going to the answer is going to be less than what we got in part A. So moving on to question 6, it says that a bowl is a hemisphere with a radius of 12 centimetres. Water is poured into the bowl at a rate of 325 cubic centimetres per second for 8 seconds. Does the water fill more than 70% of the bowl? You must show you're working out. So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out the volume of the hemisphere. So the formula, we've been given the volume of a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed, but for a hemisphere we need to divide that by 2. So from this, which then if we just simplify, it gives us 4/6 pi r cubed, which I could simplify to 2/3, but I'm going to leave it as it is. Now it tells us that the radius is 12, so if I substitute 12 into this formula, I'm going to get an answer of 1152 pi cubic centimetres. I'm just going to leave it in terms of pi because I know that's not the end of the question. So the next thing for me then to do is to then find out the volume of the water. Poured. So we've been told it's going to be 325 cubic centimetres for 8 seconds. So it's going to be 325 multiplied by 8, which gives me an answer of 2,600 centimetres cubed. So now all we then need to do is now work out the percentage of the water to the bowl. So to work out that percentage, we need to do how much is poured, which is 2,600, divided by the total volume, which is 1152 pi, and we're going to multiply that by 100. Now if I type that all into my calculator, I should end up with an answer of 71.8%, and that's to 1 decimal place. So going back to the question, does the water fill more than 70% of the bowl? The answer is yes, it does. Moving on to question 7, so let's just zoom out so we can see that completely on the screen. It says that A is the point of 1, 3, B is the point 2, 9, are points on a centimetre grid. A, B, C, D is a parallelogram. AD and BC are horizontal and each have a length of 5 centimetres, and the diagonals of A, B, C, D cross at E. Work out the 2 possible pairs of coordinates of E. So to find out where the 2 possible locations of D and C are going to be, well, if it's 5 units horizontal, so it's going to either be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So either one version of D could be there, and for C, it's going to be here. So let's just call that C1. Or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So C, and let's just call that C2, could be there, and D2 rather, could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. Now all that's left for us to do is to draw the diagonals to find out where the possible values of E could be. So with a ruler, we just need to draw a line, or the diagonals through those points, like so, and then do another one, this time from A to C. And so, as you can see, one possible coordinate is going to be this point here, which is 4, 6. Or if I then compare the other diagonals for the second ordinates, like so, and then draw another line like so. Yours hopefully probably might be a little bit neater than mine. So there's our second one, which is at -1, 6. So our two coordinates then are 4, 6, -1, 6 in any particular order.